There's a version of leaving that happens before you actually leave. You're still in meetings, you're still on email threads, you're still showing up and actually doing the work, but something has shifted. The investment that you used to bring, the part of you that cared about what you were actually building, who you were building it with, what it meant, that part has quietly relocated. You're not exactly sure when it happened. There wasn't a single defining moment, a conflict, a dramatic decision, no conversation where you said, "I'm done." Just a gradual, almost imperceptible drift between the person who used to walk into this work and the person who's walking into it right now. The same body is at the desk, but the same person isn't. And here's what makes this particular experience so hard to talk about. From the outside, it can be almost impossible to see until it comes out of left field, until the quality of work starts to shift, until the client notices the mistakes and they become impossible to ignore. And by then, by the time it's visible to everyone, the person has usually been gone or checked out for a while. This is what we're talking about today, what I'm calling already gone. And that window that's almost always present, almost always missed to reach someone before they are. Welcome to The Human Layer. I'm Mike Roven. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is episode number 20. Pretty exciting. All right. Already gone is not really a character flaw. It's not laziness dressed up in employment. It's not someone gamifying the system. It's what happens when the thread that binds the person and their work starts to break or fray or get stretched past the point that it can carry the weight that it's been holding. And the reason it's so hard to address from any direction is that in most cases, nobody really planned for it to happen. Not the person living it, not the manager seeing it, not the organization who may be enabling it. It's not always even a decision. It's more of an accumulation. Small moments, small signals, small costs, until one day the weight becomes just too much to carry, while the person on the other end quietly starts to let go while still showing up, because showing up is the one part that still feels possible. Already gone arrives in a few different ways, and understanding which version you're looking at, or maybe living, it matters. The first version is the one that most of us might imagine. The person who's calculated, consciously or not, that the cost of full investment is no longer worth it. The pay is fine, the benefits are good, the known is better than the unknown. So they just stay, but they don't bring everything anymore. They just bring enough. This version is real, and it usually stems from a symptom of an environment that taught them that over time, through accumulated experience, that full investment doesn't really return what it costs. We've talked about this dynamic in previous episodes in the series before. What we called the implied contract just a few episodes ago, the work that went uncredited, or the dimension of a person that stopped being seen. Already gone in this version is the endpoint of those patterns that we've been seeing in previous episodes. Now, the second version is a little quieter, and in some ways, it's actually harder to see. This is the person who was genuinely invested, cared about the work, cared about growing and expanding and improving, taking on more, being trusted with more complex work or complex projects, and somewhere along the way, something broke. Not dramatically, not with a conversation or a specific conflict. Maybe they were stretched a little further than they were prepared to handle. Maybe the complexity of their work increased, but the recognition of that complexity wasn't really there. Maybe they kept waiting for something to shift, a recognition, a conversation, a title, a sign, and the waiting eventually became exhausting. This person didn't decide to leave. They gradually drifted. And the drift was pretty invisible because they used to be present, so no one was really looking for it. The third version of Already Gone is the one that nobody really talks about or doesn't talk about enough. The person who's already 1 foot out the door. An outside conversation has already happened. A decision may already be forming or has already been made. They haven't said anything yet because maybe the timing is right, or the next thing isn't fully confirmed yet, or they don't know exactly how to say something, and the emotional investment has already moved on. They're not mailing it in deliberately, they're just elsewhere in their mind, already thinking about what's coming next while still inside of what's happening right now. And the quality of their presence changes before the conversation actually happens. And the work shows it before the words come. 3 versions, 3 different paths to the same place. The body is at the desk, but the same person isn't. So here's what makes already gone so difficult to address organizationally. Everyone is looking at the same situation from a different distance. The person living it feels the drift long before anyone actually sees it. They know, even if they don't have the words for it or have actually been able to admit it to themselves. Something has changed in the quality of their own engagement or presence in those moments. Their manager, if they're paying attention, may start to notice some subtle signs, the way they interact with clients, the way they interact with their teams. A subtle energy is starting to shift, a change in the quality of their overall interactions or work. Perhaps they don't quite fit the person they know 6 months ago. They feel it even though they may not be able to actually identify it or connect it and put words to it. Then there's the broader organization. The service delivery, the client, the stakeholders. For them, it comes out of left field because by the time it's visible to them at their distance, by the time the work is affected enough to generate an actual complaint or become a real issue and raise a concern, it's at that point already becoming a little bit too late. The person has been gone for a long time. And the cruel math of this is that the further the distance, the more urgent the response is needed, and the less likely you are to reach the person in time. Because by the time it becomes an actual service delivery problem, it stopped being a recoverable people problem long ago. Not because anyone failed exactly, but because the visibility arrived after the window had already closed. We tend to talk about this already gone situation as an organizational problem or a performance problem, a retention and service quality problem. And it is those things, yes, but it's also something the person living inside of it quietly pays for. And I want to acknowledge that. Any of us who've been in this situation, we recognize this is not an easy dynamic to live with if we're the person living through it. Even though repercussions, of course, fall on us, we're sort of struggling our way through this as well and how best to manage this going forward, because it's really challenging spending your days showing up for something that you're not fully invested in, and you know that there are outcomes on the other side. The exhaustion of quietly performing or acting like you genuinely care about being where you are, a dim guilt feeling knowing that the work deserves more than what you're currently able to give. Already gone, it's not a comfortable place to be. Even when it looks like you're just coasting from the outside, it's kind of like living in limbo. You're not fully here, you're not fully gone, and you're not sure exactly how to find your way back, or whether you even want to or not. That's not a management problem, that's a human thing. And it deserves to be held that way, both by the person living it and by the people around them. Here's what I keep coming back to. In every version of Already Gone, there was an earlier moment before the drift became a direction, before the fraying became fully broken, before the decision became irreversible. A moment when the thread was still there, thin maybe, under strain probably, but still there. And in that moment, a different kind of attention, a different conversation, a different structure, a different signal that someone saw was actually happening might have actually changed the direction. Not always, not guaranteed. People leave. They do. Threads break. Sometimes that window closes regardless of what anyone does. But sometimes, and more often than we tend to believe, it doesn't have to. And the question that keeps resonating in my head that I'd like to talk about in a future episode is, what does it look like when someone actually catches that window? When the organization, the manager, the structure, the culture is built in a way that sees this drift before it becomes a departure. What does that feel like, or what does that look like from the inside? What has to be true about a place, an organization, a person leading that place for Already Gone to become not yet, or maybe not at all? If you've been already gone, you know what it costs. If you've watched someone drift, you understand how quickly the window closes. And if you're somewhere in the middle of it right now, in either seat, I think there's more to say. This is The Human Layer. I'll see you on the next one.